Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tomlin Tuesday. It's Mike Tomlin's press conference. Bob Pompiani, soon to be joined by Missy Matthews. We are here at the Steeler facility on the south side as the Steelers get ready for the Denver Broncos. And they come in here certainly needing to make a quick fix on 3 straight losses, the third of which happened last week at Lambeau Field, 27-17. Meanwhile, Denver started off hot, 3 wins in a row against arguably lesser teams. Last week they took on the Ravens. And both these teams have had injuries, and they came away with a loss, 23-7, although there was some controversy at the end when the Ravens decided to go and add some yardage to a game that was already over. Vic Fangio didn't like it. But this Denver team comes in here with questions at quarterback, only because Teddy Bridgewater had a concussion. Not sure if he's going to clear that protocol. Not sure if Drew Lock is going to play. But certainly they have a run game that the Steelers have to deal with, and it's a pretty good one as well. Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, who had a great run last week. And then, of course, on the other side of the ball, it's Von Miller and his 4.5 sacks, 6 tackles for losses. He's playing some of his best football. And the Steelers in an offensive line, which is still having its issues, have got to learn how to deal with some of those marquee players, and he is certainly one of them. So the Steelers in need of a win. They got back-to-back home games coming up this week against Denver, next week against Seattle. Mike Tomlin is ready to meet the media, so let's take you inside the indoor facility.
Good afternoon. As always, I'll start with a summary of our last performance. Like we talked about after the game, and we're really disappointed with where we are in terms of being at 1-3, but that's where we are. We've earned that, and we're excited about rectifying that. And by rectifying it, I mean working this week to improve and getting back in the stadium and pitting our talents versus an opponent. One of the things, or a couple of the things that I thought we did better, because you always do some things well, you do some things not as well, regardless of the outcome of the game. And oftentimes the emotions of the moment don't allow you to see it. In review of the tape, and I expressed this to the team, man, I thought we took a step in regards to our run game in Green Bay. I thought we eliminated some negativity in terms of negative yardage plays. I thought we played cleaner from a technical standpoint. That was displayed in tape, but it's also displayed by a reduction in penalties, particularly in the run game, and that's critical for us, man. You're getting run game penalties, holding penalties, man, that essentially kills drives. We had some of those in recent weeks, and we cut down on those in Green Bay, and that was significant. I also thought that we ran the ball effectively in situational play, short yardage and goal line. And so those are good building blocks for us as we move forward. We didn't get enough quantity of runs, and oftentimes, that's dictated by other variables, by, possession down, conversion rate, possession of the ball, the score of the game, etc. We got to continually work to position ourselves so that we get more attempts, so that we have more balance over the course of 60 minutes. But I thought it was a significant step in terms of what we did specifically in the run game in review of the tape. On the defensive side of the ball, I thought we were better in terms of keeping a lid on it, You got to keep a lid on it at all times. It doesn't take a large number of plays to change the trajectory of a game. We've experienced that some in recent weeks. We gave up a big play at a critical moment against the Raiders. We gave up a big play in a 2-minute against the Bengals, and it was good to play 60 minutes of football and largely keep a lid on it. There's some things we need to shore up in terms of underneath defense, but we kept a lid on it. And when you're keeping a lid on it, you give yourself a chance to win. You make them snap it again. You have blades of grass to defend, and that's just a prerequisite for good defense. Just like running the ball efficiently is for good offense. And so there's some things to build upon. And as we move forward, we're excited about doing that. We got a challenge waiting on us this week. But we got some work opportunities in front of that. From a health standpoint, Zach Banner came back to work last week. We'll continue to monitor his work. We're within that 21-day sequence where we have an opportunity to make a decision about whether or not to activate him. The quantity of his work will determine that. Also, the quality of his work will determine that. We'll find ways to infuse him into the process and get a sense of where he is. Some of the guys that missed time last week, we anticipate working their way back to us, or at least having an opportunity to. Chooks Okorafor, Chase Claypool being 2 of those. Some in-game guys I know less about. Cam Sutton and his groin, Dotson and his hip, Ben also has some hip issues relative to play. We'll let their practice participation be our guide in terms of their availability, and I'm sure we'll gain greater clarity as we push through the week in regards to those people. But again, like always, particularly their practice availability, won't change our planning more than anything. It's an opportunity for us to get additional reps for younger and developing players and continue to grow in those ways to prepare ourselves for the natural attrition that's a part of this game. And so that'll always be our approach in terms of Wednesdays and Thursdays, particularly in some instances that we've talked about in the past. Say if Ben doesn't work Wednesday, it's a great opportunity for Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins to get quality work and continue their growth and development. Now on to Denver. They're a 3-1 football team. They're playing really good football, and when you look at their tape, you see why. They're running the ball extremely well on offense. They're utilizing 2 ball carriers in Gordon and Williams, and almost equally. We're very familiar with Williams. You know that we were in the market for A runners in this past draft, and so really familiar with him, really impressed with his skill set. He's displaying the things in the league that he displayed at Carolina. He's got great leg drive and contact balance. He's a tough tackle. He has a small hit surface, not a small guy, but a small hit surface, and I think that's what allows him to run through some tackles and maintain that body balance and produce some of the runs that you've seen not only on Sundays but prior to that on Saturdays. Melvin Gordon needs no endorsement from me, man. He's been doing it a long time. We've been in stadiums with him in the past. He's home run hitter capable. I think he's already hit a 70-yarder this year. Those 2 guys, their schematics, Mike Munchak being an offensive line coach, those are many of the reasons why their run game has our attention. But they're not one-dimensional in that way. Teddy Bridgewater has really given them a shot in the arm at the quarterback position. You just read and listen to what his teammates and members of that organization says about him, and you know that he has that intangible quality that you look for at that position. He's a natural leader, but beyond that, he has some really tangible things that are going very well for him, man. He's working very efficiently. He's completing the ball at a high rate. He's getting chunk plays. He's delivering the ball down the field to guys that are capable of making one-on-one plays against defenders, guys like Sutton at receiver, who's a top-notch guy. Bridgewater's also doing a great job of taking care of the football. They're doing a great job of taking care of the football. So there's some challenges there. Can't say enough also about Fant at tight end. He's one of those guys that is a challenging matchup, oftentimes too big for defenders or defensive backs and too athletic for linebackers. And so we got to be thoughtful about how we work to minimize him and who we put on him and when, because he's a big component of what they do. On the defensive side of the ball, man, you got to start with Von Miller, just a generational guy. What can you say about Von Miller? He needs no endorsement from me. One of the things that, I think about when I think about him is we had an opportunity to coach him several years back at the Pro Bowl in Orlando, and, man, his passion for football during the course of the week really struck me. He loves to talk it. He just does. He loves the game. Practice settings in a Pro Bowl setting, he brought energy to it. The science of rushing the passer is something that he's into. His football intellect is on the ceiling, and you couple that with his freakish talents, and that's why he's in the midst of the type of career that he's building. He's also having that type of 2021 season. I think he's got 4.5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and all that while people are working really hard schematically to minimize him. So, yes, we're going to do some things to hopefully minimize his impact on the game, but, yes, he sees those things week in and week out. He's got flexibility in terms of which side of the line and so forth that he plays on, et cetera, making him a tough nut to crack. He provides a wave that the rest of the group rides. They got a quality group that rides that wave. In the secondary in particular, man, they've got veteran players with some continuity, particularly at the safety position, that allows them to live out the vision of Ed Donatel, their coordinator. known Ed a long time, man. He's a former secondary coach, and you see the complexities of his background in their schematics, man. They do a lot in the back end, but as I mentioned, they have veteran players that have been together, particularly at the safety position for a number of years with Ed, and so that allows them to be multiple and versatile. There's some challenges associated with that. Those guys are splash playmakers. They've added to that group with Surtain, spending a couple of days in draft prep down in Tuscaloosa, getting a bird's eye view of his talents. They're very impressive, and they appear to be translating rather easily and well to the professional game. He's playing a significant role for them and playing extremely well. Man, but, as I mentioned last week, and really as I mentioned, regardless of our current state, but more about this time of year, it's less about the people that we play. It's more about the continual trajectory of our group, us gaining a better understanding of who we are, who we have available to us, how do we accentuate their positive traits, how do we work to minimize their negative traits, how do we set them up schematically and put them in good position to be successful, how do we prepare them, how do they go out and make plays that put us in the winner's circle. And so that's our challenge and focus for the week. We're singularly focused professionally in that manner, and I'm excited about getting the week started with them. The week's already started with the coaching staff in terms of some planning things and things relative to that. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, what was it about the running game that you liked that you saw in Green Bay? Was it coming off the ball, the line, assignments, cohesion, what?
It's the things that I outlined earlier. I thought we minimized negativity. We had less negative plays than we've had. We got hats on hats. They weren't unblocked defenders, and so identification, our collective above the net game was better. We were good in situational ball. We converted a 3rd and 1. We converted a goal line circumstance, and so those are good things to build upon. And lastly, but not leastly, obviously, we're working to minimize penalties, and that's important, man. Penalties are drive killers.
Mike, you seen Ben throw some pretty accurate passes the other day to Deontay, maybe to Washington on that deep end later in the game. But then he had some missed throws. Where's the inconsistency coming from, and how do you fix it?
It's him some. It's us collectively some. We just got to keep working. Sometimes it could be attributed to altering of plans late in the week because of player availability or guys not being available. We lost Chase Claypool in the middle of the week or toward the latter part of the week last week, so we had to alter our plans in some instances. But, we're not looking to make excuses. We've had some big play opportunities. We hadn't cashed in on them, and we need to cash in on them. They're a big component of moving the ball and scoring, particularly when you're not working as efficiently as you'd like on possession downs, which we aren't. Chunk plays eliminate a lot of execution, we say in the coaching world. And so we're going to continue to work to get better from an efficiency standpoint. We're also going to continue to work to connect on a higher percentages of these chunk opportunities, because that aids us in terms of ringing up the scoreboard as well.
Mike, as a follow-up to that, do you look at the tape and talk to Ben about things that might be awry in his game? Do you leave that mainly to Coach Canada and Coach Sullivan, or because of his veteran standings, that stuff that you expect him to just sort of work out on his own?
No question. That is a Coach Sullivan task along with Ben, man. Positional coaches really focus on technical aspects of play, and they analyze that continually, whether or not he's playing well or he isn't. That's just a component of play. Skill development is big at any position, but doubly so at the quarterback position. And so, positional coaches, regardless of position, spend a great deal of their time working with and dealing with the aspects of technical play or skill development with guys that they work with. Coordinators and guys like myself take a more global approach and talk about schematics and big picture things and how those individuals fit into 11-man football.
Mike, continuing with the Ben questions, is he the best quarterback for this offense? And if so, what makes him that way?
Absolutely. What he does and what he's done makes me really comfortable in saying that.
Ben mentioned after the game about Najee, about he would like to see him. He's a big player. like to see him challenge tacklers sometimes when he's in that situation. Just go ahead and run the guy over. What have you seen from Najee the first few games as far as challenging tacklers?
Man, I'm encouraged and excited about his continual development and the progression of that development. He's good. We've seen that, but he's continually getting better, and that's been on display throughout the first 4 games of the season as well, and I think it's reasonable to expect that to continue. This guy is unbelievably talented. He's a competitor. I like his preparation. He's passionate about football. I'm excited about what the near future and the future in general holds for Harris.
Mike, this is the second time in 4 weeks you've come to us on Tuesday and say Ben is dealing with something. He can't get out of the way like he used to. He can't run like he used to. They're having trouble protecting him. What is your level of concern about just his safety back there?
Not out of the ordinary. I'm sure if you reviewed the tape and looked at these visits from the first 11 weeks of last year, I probably said similar things, and he was upright and we were undefeated. It's probably a component of just being, in your late 30s and playing this game and playing that position, and particularly when you're not playing winning football and you get somewhat one-dimensional. There's collateral damage that's associated with that for him and for us, and I think we all understand that. I think that's why it's important that we continue to work to improve and have a well-rounded approach to play and get better in all areas.
Mike, you mentioned the details that are missing. Are there a few examples you could share with us about some of the details you're really trying to pin down?
In which area of play?
Well, you said it kind of generally about the team after the game on Sunday, but is there
specifically? I didn't mention it specifically after the game, but what I meant was specifically defensively and the challenges that come with facing a guy like Aaron Rodgers. They converted a lot of third downs in the game. They worked at a high rate there. We weren't surprised by that. When you're playing Aaron Rodgers in his venue on possession downs where crowd noise is not a factor, he has an opportunity to change plays at the line of scrimmage, work at pace or selectively not work at pace, et cetera, that, boy, you're really challenged from a unit standpoint in those areas. And sometimes we perform solidly in those circumstances. Sometimes we didn't. And usually when we didn't, it was detail-oriented things and things that you have to be detailed on when you face a guy like him that has that level of experience and understanding and expertise. Boy, there has to be detail in your pre-snap looks. There have to be details in your adjustments, whether it's motion and shift related or personnel related. All of those bills come due rather quickly when you're playing a guy that's the quality of Aaron Rodgers in his venue and specifically on possession downs. And so that's what I was talking about specifically after the game, although I probably didn't clarify it.
Mike, you guys always talk about situational play, and you've had some fourth down passes that have come up short. How much freedom, even in a new offense, does Ben Roethlisberger have to call audibles at the line of scrimmage and switch up a play based on what he sees right now?
He has a lot of freedom in that regard, but maybe not in those moments. Those moments are so weighty, and there's so much preparation in those moments. Oftentimes, those decisions are had and thought through and discussed prior to being in them, and so there's more fluidity in that decision making and more certainty in terms of the play selection.
Mike, when you guys are going through a little...
I'm sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay.
When you guys are going through a little bit of adversity, like you're going through right now in the midst of a little bit of a losing streak, what do you say to the team, and what conversations do you see the veteran leaders kind of having with, especially some of the younger guys who may have not dealt with this?
Yeah, we say appropriate things that would not surprise you or be interesting to you in any way. It's more important what I do than what I say. The attitude and energy that I bring to these work days, the attitude and energy that I bring to preparation, I want them to mirror that behavior in their preparation. And so I talk to the leaders, the experienced guys about that. It's less about what we say, it's more about what we do and our approach to our circumstances, particularly when you're dealing with young guys, and we got some young guys. Forget what comes out of my mouth, man. They're studying how I move. the study and the spirit in which I move, the attitude and energy that I bring to the opportunity, the can-do approach is extremely helpful when you face the adversity that this game presents.
Mike, we all know that, turnovers lead to wins. You haven't created many turnovers on defense this year. How can you kind of force that a little bit, or do you force that a little bit?
We can start by being in more games. When you're down by multiple scores, man, you don't have many opportunities to create that havoc or that atmosphere that's conducive to producing turnovers. They hide the football. They function in a more conservative manner. They meaning the people that you play against, whether it's the schematics or the players themselves. That's a component of it as well. And so I like our approach to turnover producing. I like the work that we've done in that area in terms of team development. It hadn't come to fruition in the manner in which I'd like yet. Some of that is our doing. We got to capitalize on the opportunities. We get our hands on balls, we got to catch them, et cetera. But all of that discussion can be aided by game circumstance. Just like when you're talking about run game quantity can be aided by game circumstances. And so that's why when I was talking about the run game, I was talking about efficiency and not quantity. The same thing could be said for turnover opportunities. In-game circumstances produce more opportunities in that regard. And so starting fast, matching score for score, being ahead, playing better possession down football, all the components of creating the atmosphere that you mentioned.
Continuing with that theme, Mike, against Denver this week, they've got a good defensive team. Is that exact talking point of particular import this week against the Broncos, because it could be a tight game and your defense, maybe with a splash play or two, flips the score, flips the field, shortens the field for your offense, et cetera?
We talk about that every week. I don't want to mislead you and lead you to believe that it's more of a talking point this week. It's just a major talking point every week, particularly when you're not playing well.
Mike, during the game, Rodgers tried to quick snap you guys, and you called a timeout. What do you appreciate about a guy like that is that level of competitor? It looked like you guys kind of shared a look after that.
It's chess, not checkers, and man, you just, if you're a competitor, you love being in that environment. You love pitting your skills and talents and preparedness versus people like those guys led by a guy like that guy. And as I mentioned, particularly in his venue, because of the latitude it provides him in terms of getting in and out of things at the line of scrimmage and having the ability to thoughtfully change pace, whether speed it up or slow it down, the challenges that brings.
Yeah, Mike, on those fourth down plays, were you confident in the plays that were called? Because there were passes behind the line of scrimmage or short, and do you think you need to start throwing more to the line to gain?
There were other eligibles beyond the line to gain, and so, yes, I had a great deal of confidence in the plays that were called. Obviously, we'd like the outcome to be different. I'd be remiss if I didn't compliment Green Bay and Joe Barry in particular, their coordinator. They did a few things differently in those circumstances and created issues for us, so kudos to them. But, yes, I felt good about them. No, I didn't feel good about the result of them, and so we'll roll the ball out and work again for preparation in those moments this week.
Mike, in your current kind of version of the no huddle, is Ben more limited than he was in the past in terms of number of plays and maybe formations? And does that have anything to do with the amount of young guys or new faces on offense?
He's not limited in any way. If there are any alterations to that approach, besides the plays themselves, the plays change. But any alteration to the approach, if there's any alteration to the approach, it's always got something to do with, who's available to us, their level of experience, their ability to execute, particularly in those moments. And when you're talking no huddle, usually you're talking about those weighty moments. And so you want execution to be at a certain level. And so you work in the wheelhouse of the people that are in the huddle.
Mike, you've talked a lot about the need to build cohesion. How difficult is that when guys that you need to be primetime players on Sunday are unavailable during the week?
That's just challenges of our business. That's not something that's exclusive to us. That's something that everybody deals with. I'm sure Denver is dealing with Teddy Bridgewater being in the protocol in preparation for this game and what that might mean to his preparedness and so forth. We fully anticipate seeing Teddy Bridgewater, but it could limit him doing preparation this week. And so we don't spend a lot of time focused on that adversity and that challenge. We realize that it's global, it's not exclusive to us. And as I say oftentimes, it creates opportunity for others to improve, and there's positive aspects in that.
Mike, if I can get a clarification on the fourth down situation about checking at the line, is that something that changed this year, or did Ben have more freedom under previous coordinators?
I don't know what your question is.
Well, you were asked earlier about his freedom to check out of plays on those fourth downs, and you said it was more game plan specific, and that usually you're not checking those plays.
No, I was just talking about specifically as it pertained to Sunday. We were working in a hostile venue. Communication was limited. We had a good plan. We had an alteration of that plan based on availability, latter part of the week with Claypool being removed from availability and so forth. And so, there wasn't a lot of discussions about changing or altering our plans because of those variables and circumstances specifically.
Mike, after reviewing the tape, did it give you any clarity on the offside call on the blocked field goal?
It did not.
Mike, right here. Mike, it's a pretty passionate fan base here in Pittsburgh, and a lot of people want you to move on from Ben right now. What do you say to those fans that want you to make that move?
I think Ben and I have been at our jobs long enough that we know and understand what comes with it. We love Pittsburgh, PA. We love Steeler Nation and appreciate the passion that they have, and we understand the responsibilities that come with our roles. Him being a quarterback, me being a head coach, oftentimes we get too much credit when things are going well, and we're always ready to absorb the negativity of our positions when things aren't going well. That's just life for us.
Mike, what's your assessment of Devin and...
I'm sorry, I'm trying to find out who's talking here. Please put your hand up. Okay.
My bad.
Okay.
What's your assessment of Devin Bush and Joe Schobert with their play against both the run and the pass and just their cohesion and working together? I know Devin wasn't 100% coming into the season, but where do you feel both of them are right now?
Based on the variables, Devin working himself back to health and Joe being new to us, it's a work in progress, but work in progress that I think is going rather well, and I'm excited about it continuing to improve and get better.
Mike, if Ben can't go, where have you seen growth in Mason? What's your confidence level in Mason Rudolph?
Man, I have a lot of confidence in Mason. We've called on Mason in the past, and he's been able to play winning football for us. I think it's reasonable to expect that to not only continue but to improve. I know he clocks in here every day with an attitude geared toward getting better and being that guy when called upon.
Mike, nobody plays this game forever except for maybe Tom Brady. You just mentioned that you and Ben have been doing this a long time. What have you seen on film that looks fixable from the quarterback position as opposed to maybe just the fact that this guy can't play at the same level he did 10 years ago?
Everything except mobility. I don't have an answer for that, or lack thereof, man. Ben used to be able to run really good when he was young. Those days are behind him. Other than that, I don't see much that's not a discussion in terms of technical alterations or quality of play that can be improved. All right, thank you, guys.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin after the press conference, joined now by Missy Matthews, Steelers.com. And so injuries, always the topic, and they have some that they're dealing with. And I guess they're going to have to wait until the end of the week to find out how guys deal with them.
Yeah, no doubt. And Ben Roethlisberger is dealing with a hip injury. That's a new one coming out of the Green Bay game. He was dealing with a pec injury earlier in the season. Also, Cam Sutton injured his groin. Kevin Dotson, his hip flexor in those games. Coach didn't have a lot of information. And then Chase Claypool and Chuks Okorafor, who missed the game, coach said they're working their way back. And then Zach Banner was brought up, somebody who was activated just to be able to practice. No real information. It will, as you said, participation will be the guide.
Yeah, Zach Banner, they have 21 days, just as they do with Stephon Tuitt, to try to figure out what happens. And if they don't activate him by then they have to go on season-ending injured reserve. We have a lot to get into. Mike Tomlin was good on a lot of things, including the quarterback play and Ben Roethlisberger's limitations in terms of his ability to escape and, do some things on the run, which I think all of us expect. We'll talk about that and more as we continue. We're live here on Pittsburgh CW and all the Steelers digital platforms. We're back with more of the Mike Tomlin press conference right after this.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
Ben, Mike had said earlier that you had Juju a few times down the field, weren't able to connect with the big chunk plays that you didn't make. What happened?
Just missed the throw. I'll take it. You kind of get caught between putting air on it, and letting him run under it, and taking some air off because you don't want to get him hit. But either way, that's on me. I'll take those. And those are big plays that we need.
You think after that strip sack, kind of momentum change for you guys, and had trouble getting back in the rhythm?
I mean, anytime you turn the ball over, it's going to be a potential game changer.
Yeah, those couple fourth-down plays, throwing short, is that by design or were you under stress?
You know what? I don't even remember. I mean, we had a few of them tonight, I think. And so I'd hate to give you an answer without knowing exactly, what happened or what the play call was or what specifically it was. But could be any of the factors. I'm not really sure. Sorry.
They talked a lot about the importance of getting the running game going, but at the same time, is getting the ball downfield on a consistent basis even more important in ways to get that safety, to get everybody to back off?
Yeah, I mean, I thought we did kind of started to get the run game going. We had some decent plays tonight, and I think there's still more out there. I keep telling Naj, get physical. You're big, be big, play big, run through tackles. Don't avoid contact, make contact, be scary. I remember I got to play with Jerome, and Jerome created contact, and it was a game changer when he ran people over. And so I keep trying to reiterate that to him. At the same time, you're right, we have to take shots. And right now we're just a little bit off, and I'll look in the mirror and start pointing the thumb at me, figuring out how to make it better.
Towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz
Field. I think Ben at our jobs long enough that we know and understand what comes with it. We love Pittsburgh, PA. We love Steeler Nation and appreciate the passion that they have, and we understand the responsibilities that come with our roles. Him being a quarterback, me being a head coach, oftentimes we get too much credit when things are going well, and we're always ready to absorb the negativity of our positions when things aren't going well. That's just life for us.
And that's Mike Tomlin when asked about a quarterback change specifically. Would it happen this week? Absolutely not, is what he said, Missy. So Ben Roethlisberger will be there, although he did talk about some of his shortcomings with regard to mobility. And when you're 39, it happens.
Right, and whenever
Unless you're Mick Jagger, by the way.
Yeah, you were at that concert
You
last
have no
night.
mobility issues if you're 78 and doing what he does.
Coach Tomlin was also asked if he had any extra concern about Ben now that he's dealing with a hip injury, and said none than the normal of having a quarterback and an offensive line that is trying to gel and get things going. But, Ben has been sacked sacked 10 times so far this season. He was only sacked 13 times in 2020. So it is something they need to keep working on.
Yeah, protection, very important. And, hopefully stepping up in the pocket, seeing more options and that kind of thing, because there were some opportunities last week that obviously Mike Tomlin said that they missed and they could have capitalized on. And those kind of plays are big. But Ben Roethlisberger did put his name back in the history books. And I guess it was a bad day for Dan Marino all around because there was a yardage issue there. We also saw Aaron Rodgers move ahead of him. But 400 career touchdowns, that's 8th most all time. And Aaron Rodgers is right ahead of him, along with Dan Marino.
Yeah, he's just the 8th quarterback to do so, to hit the 400 mark. And as you said, passes Dan Marino for 6th place in the all-time passing yards. So not the outcome. I don't think Ben had a chance to maybe think about what this means, but we can do that at a later time.
Yeah, and one thing that is certain, it looks like Ben Roethlisberger, who doesn't practice much on Wednesdays with this injury, won't again. And he did cite the opportunities for Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins, specifically Rudolph, who Mike Tomlin has, a lot of admiration for. He thinks he's done well when he's given the opportunity. So that's important to know moving forward.
Yeah, if you go back to that 2019 season, they finished 8-8. Ben was hurt week 2. Devlin Hodges, Mason Rudolph were able to help that team. While it did not end in going to the playoffs, it was still one of those weird, funky, but fun seasons as well.
Yeah, so the injuries, again, we talk about groin injuries. It's like the hashtag groin gang here, and Cam Sutton is on it now. So that's become an injury that's affected a lot of guys on this team. And I wonder last week, coming back from one, because we saw both Highsmith and TJ Watt had those groin injuries. And who knows how much time you need for those to effectively heal 100%. Here are the notes that Missy put out there on Twitter. So interesting stuff there. And you wonder about Okorafor, specifically on the offensive line. If Banner doesn't come back, Joe Haig got an opportunity, I thought played pretty well.
Yeah, Craig Wolfley, who is our O-line expert, I asked him about that last night, and he said Joe Haig did a lot of good things, but as Coach mentioned, that side is usually where you see Von Miller, and he is the Von Miller that maybe we didn't see him last year in terms of that due to his injury, but he's kind of on a roll right now with 4.5 sacks.
Yeah, and he's in the backfield quite a bit. Tackles for losses, he's still as good, if not better than he's been, and that's saying something, and that's a challenge for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who take on the Broncos 1 o'clock on Sunday here at Heinz Field. We'll be back with more right after this on the Mike Tomlin press conference. It's a Tomlin Tuesday.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field is everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
We'll go to Brian Backo. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Joe. I think we all saw your tweet after the game. So just kind of take us through that play from your perspective. What you saw, what you thought, your reaction, and whether you got any explanation maybe from the officials on it.
We didn't really get any explanation. Well, the explanation that we got was a lot of people said that we weren't offsides. The ball moved, and me and Minka, we were timing that thing up. So as soon as it was a flinch of the ball, we got off it. I felt like it was, a really good get off. And then, he was able to block the ball. I think, once you get off like that, sometimes, two people come in that clean, referees sometimes just throw it. It's happened to us against the Titans. We've had probably 2-3 blocks since I've been here that just really good get offs. And once everybody gets off on the ball so good sometimes, referees throw the flag. It's unfortunate though.
Noah Strackton.
Hey, Joe, you've been tweeting last 12 hours or so, it's not over. We're built for this. What is the morale? What's the attitude in the locker room right now? Have you guys lost any confidence, after yesterday?
Not at all, man. I feel like especially with our defense, I know I'm speaking as a team, our special teams unit special, our defense and our offense, we know that, they're going through a couple struggles right now, but we think that, it's nothing that can't be fixed. But on the defense side of the ball, all I can speak for is that we know how much talent we have. We feel like we can just always play better. No matter what situation we get put on the field, we got to make sure we give up field goals instead of touchdowns. Can't be letting things like that happen. So we got to always look in the mirror and grade ourselves. I feel like we can be the best defense in the league. So when it's offense may not be clicking like they are right now, special teams and blocking field goals and scoring like that, or being able to intercept the ball, create more turnovers, so we just got to be able to weather the storm. And I don't think that I'm not in the least bit wavered at all. I've been in this league for a long time.
Terrible towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz
Field. Negativity. We had less negative plays than we've had. We got hats on hats. They weren't unblocked defenders, and so identification, our above the neck, collective above the neck game was better. We were good in situational ball. We converted a 3rd and 1. We converted a goal line circumstance, and so those are good things to build upon. And lastly, but not leastly, obviously, we're working to minimize penalties.
Mike Tomlin on the run game, which you saw improvement, is sort of like a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. They have to make improvement week after week, but I'm wondering if they, should run the ball more with Najee Harris. He has been as physical as any running back in the game, I think.
Yeah, the Steelers offense started out strong by scoring that touchdown, able to run the ball a little bit, but then I think when you get behind, the quantity does decrease due to the play. But the Steelers have not had a 100-yard rusher in 16 consecutive games. That goes all the way back to October 18th of last year. Harris saw his first rushing touchdown this week. Hopefully, heading into the Denver game, we can get more on the ground, and maybe he does get a 100-yard game.
And there was an encouraging sign that they did score on that first drive. They ran the ball effectively, and it set up the big touchdown, number 400 for Ben Roethlisberger to Deontay Johnson. So that is a streak that ended, and that's 16 games in a row without 100 yards. You'd like to see that end, too.
Absolutely. So hopefully, that is something that they can build on, and it is encouraging to hear that they are taking a step in the right direction week after week in terms of getting the run game going, which, as we always say, has been priority number 1 since last February.
All right, when we come back, we're not going to talk about the run game, but an extension of it, that is 4th down calls that were questionable in nature. Mike Tomlin talked about that. We'll discuss it when we come back right here on the Mike Tomlin Press Conference, live on Pittsburgh CW and the Steeler digital platforms.
Towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz
Field. Those are game, changing moment plays. I think the momentum of the game changes. You get 6-7 points, on the board, and the momentum of the game changes. So we just got to make those plays. I got to make those plays. Just frustrated. I'm frustrated because those are plays that I usually make down the field.
Juju, there was some footage showing you on the sideline rewatching those plays. It looked like on the iPad. What did you see in those, and how frustrated did you feel when you guys were coming off the field?
I just saw that. I make those balls. I make them in practice, and I fell short. And I take full responsibility and blame. I knew that it was going to be a quick ball that was coming. Kind of like took my eyes off of it. Went up, tried to grab it. Didn't make the play, and that's something I gotta get better at.
You guys start pressing at this point? Is that a little bit of pressure knowing that if you guys fail, it's 1-3, you don't get that?
Like I said, there's so many different plays, but looking to point the finger at myself, you make those plays down the field. The one where it's up the seam and you put 7 points on the board, or even the one down the middle of the field and making those plays. And like I said, there's so many different plays that should have been made, but looking at my plays, it's frustrated. I'm human. I have feelings. I was on the sideline. I got upset with myself because I make those plays, And, I never show no emotions on the sideline just because I know that, I'm always being watched. But a game like this, in a critical time and moment, a situation like that, I'm frustrated with myself.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
There were other eligibles beyond the line to gain, and so you have a great deal of confidence in the plays that were called. Obviously, we'd like the outcome to be different. I'd be remiss if I didn't compliment Green Bay and Joe Barry, in particular their coordinator. They did a few things differently in those circumstances and created issues for us, so kudos to them. But yes, I felt good about them. No, I didn't feel good about the result of them.
Yeah, the results have not been good on fourth down, Missy. 0 for 4 for the season, and 3 of the last 4 that we've seen have been passes behind the line of scrimmage, which essentially looked like there was no chance to get a first down or beyond that. So you wonder about play calling at that point, or if it's decision-making, coverage, whatever the case, but Mike addressed that.
Absolutely, but the thing the Steelers can do is convert on second or third down and not get themselves into that situation. Of course, they started out strong, as we said, and then when you're playing from behind, maybe forcing things a little too much, but obviously Green Bay watched what, they did last week on fourth down, and it was the same play to Najee Harris, right. So I'm sure they were prepared for that.
They were, and Mike Tomlin said there are other eligibles, but it seemed like the quick play call was go right to Najee right off the bat. So if there were other eligibles, I don't know if they had enough time to develop in that game. So, the bottom line is they need to not be in those situations, as you said. And I always believe third down success is predicated on what you do on first and second down. And if you have opportunities to make it third and short, it opens up the playbook as well. You can do different things.
Well, hopefully there's not a lot of fourth down situations where the Steelers have to go for it on Sunday against the Broncos, and we are able to take a step forward in that next week.
Yeah, when we come back, we're going to talk about defense, because the Steelers did give up a lot of third down conversions. And Mike Tomlin said when he was talking about details last week, that specifically is what he was referring to, making sure they can get off the field and, have a team settle for 3 as opposed to get 7, which, Green Bay, especially with Aaron Rodgers, is going to take full advantage of it, and they did. We'll do that when we come back right here on the Mike Tomlin press conference.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
Just wasn't enough. I think we saw schematically some things that they like to do last week against San Francisco, and wanted to do some different things to try to confuse them in coverage, and sometimes that's doing different things up front rushing, but when we were able to rush, I feel like there were definitely times we were able to pressure him, and sometimes we could have done better.
The crowd was kind of on you on that, what they felt was a tripping call. Did it happen?
I haven't seen the play yet. I had hands in my face and just trying to make a play.
How did you feel?
Felt pretty good. Good enough to play.
Any common thread on they were able to convert a lot of third downs, keep low?
Just got to play better defensively.
You say good enough to play. I mean, you think you're at 100%?
I'm not putting. I was good enough to play.
DJ, what made it so hard to stop that run today?
Just trying to do too much. I think it starts with me, is just trying to make too many things happen. You got guys down and you're just trying to make a play, and sometimes you just got to trust your teammates, and I think that starts obviously first and foremost with me, and I think they had over 100 yards before the fourth quarter rushing alone, so anytime they can have the run or the pass, it's really tough to stop them defensively.
Did you know a lot of guys that go 1 and 3 in that locker room? Did you say anything? What's the feeling like in there right now? Did you get that turned around?
I just said, stop trying to make too much happen. Like, that starts with me, and we just have to continue to lean on each other and trust each other and watch the film and continue to get better. I mean, it's still super early in the season. We're at home next week, and just like every week, it's a gotta have it, but this feeling definitely sucks. I think that's the goal defensively, is trying to not let the other team get as many points as they can. So, but we're not here licking ourselves over stopping a team to 3 points either. So, like I said, there's a lot of film to watch, and we have to continue to grow and grow fast, because this thing is coming up quickly next week.
Towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz Field.
I like our pro turnover producing. I like the work that we've done in that area in terms of team development. It hadn't come to fruition in the manner in which I'd like yet. Some of that is our doing. We got to capitalize on the opportunities. You know, we get our hands on balls, we got to catch them, etc. But all of that discussion can be aided by game circumstance. Just like when you're talking about run game quantity can be aided by game circumstances. And so that's why when I was talking about the run game, I was talking about efficiency and not quantity. The same thing could be said for turnover opportunities.
So the Steelers, who turned the ball over a lot defensively last year, one of the best in the league, along with their sacks, they haven't had that so much. And Mike Tomlin, Missy talked about game circumstances, which is true. You'd like to get a lead. They did last week. And when you force a team to come at you, you have more opportunities. But that has to start this week. They have to jump on, good start, and maybe the defense can come up with some big plays too.
Right, and just like he said, the run game took a step forward. He also said in terms of the defense, they were able to keep a lid on it better than they were in their previous two games. You know, the Henry Ruggs touchdown, the Jamar Chase, we really didn't see that. But the third down conversion rate where Aaron Rodgers was able to rely on Randall Cobb, that was an issue defensively.
9 conversions on third down. You can't allow that, especially with some of these drives you have them 3rd and 4 or longer, and they make completions to change it. Now let's talk about the Denver run game, and the Steeler defense is going to have to be looking at this, because with uncertainty at quarterback, although Mike Tomlin did say he expects to see Teddy Bridgewater play, you got Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, 2 guys share the duty, and they're both very good. And Williams is a young kid. Shows some physicality. It's going to be an interesting game in the trenches, I think, this week.
Yeah, and you could tell the players defensively were upset. They gave up 131 yards to Green Bay. It was kind of, you know, take care of Devontae Adams, maybe give up some rushing yards, but I think all in all, that's something they do need to tighten up, as you said, heading into this game.
And just for the record, Judy and Hamler, both 2 outstanding receivers, are out for this game. Hamler's not for the year yet, an ACL, I believe, so that's a big loss for them, and it limits what they could do, but it also emphasizes the run game. That's why I think it's going to be very important for the Steelers to stop this trend. We've talked about streaks and trends. You don't want to give up a lot of yards to this team. You want to force them into situations which could be advantageous to your defense.
And at the friendly confines of Heinz Field, so hopefully that will be some home cooking.
We'll see how it goes, but Denver is 3-1. The Steelers in the opposite part of that. They're 1-3 in desperate need of a win, as everybody else in the AFC North is 3-1 as well. We'll come back with more of our conversation here following Mike Tomlin's press conference on a Tomlin Tuesday, Pittsburgh CW and Steeler digital platforms.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
I just think it's a continual effort to get better, not even just weekly, but daily. Just working to improve throughout the week so that we can show it on Sundays. Not particularly everything that we wanted out of the game, of course. We didn't finish the way that we wanted to finish, but there's always some positives that you could take and some things that we could build upon. We have a pretty young group, so as many positives as we could pull from, we try to.
Anthony Jaskolski.
Hi, Trey. And specifically along those lines, you had just 15 carries, but 62 yards for the rushing game. Do you feel like strides were made in that department? And do you feel like it could have been used more on Sunday?
When I speak for myself. I feel like we love to run the ball, love to set the tone, love to set our pads, and have a demeanor about the line. Sometimes you get away from things when game plans and, situations in the game. But, we want to keep getting better in that aspect of things and getting Najee going and the run game going in general. And I don't think we're going to look at this and say, okay, well, we did a good job. It's a step, but I think we need to make more strides really, really quick.
How do you guys stay positive when you're in a 3-game losing streak like this?
I think it's all about first starting with yourself, looking yourself in the mirror and realizing how you perfecting your role. And it's not about going outside of your role. It's not about going outside of your normal things that you do on a routine, day-to-day basis. It's just about perfecting what you do and doing what you do well. And if all 11 of us that are on the field, whether it be offense, defense, or special teams, play collectively as 11 and give us our best versions of ourselves, I think we'll be okay. So it's not really pointing fingers on.
The terrible towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz Field.
Some of the guys that missed time last week, we anticipate working their way back. He's having an opportunity to. Chooks Okorafor, Chase Claypool being two of those. Some in-game guys I know less about. Cam Sutton and his groin, Dotson and his hip. Ben also has some hip issues relative to play. We'll let their practice participation be our guide in terms of their availability.
Another guy who has been eligible and available for practice is Zach Banner, although, I can't imagine, Missy, that they would come cold and go to him right this week, especially against Von Miller. It's a difficult assignment if you're healthy, and if you're just coming off an injury and your rehab of that injury, that's a tough position to be in, and I thought Joe Haig played pretty well.
Right, and it does sound like Chooks Okorafor does have a chance. He was in the concussion protocol, missed the Green Bay game, but there's still a possibility he's able to return for Denver. But I do agree with Zach Banner. It's not just going to be, hey, is he out there? Is he able to practice? It will be the quality of his work as somebody who maybe had a minor setback. I don't think he expected to start the season on IR, but you want to get him in if you can without him reverting back to IR, so you got to be smart about it.
A lot of good storylines in this game, and the return of Mike Munchak, who is not only a Hall of Fame coach, but really a Hall of Fame person. Good to see him back, although that's going to be a tough assignment, stopping that run game, which he's in charge of, largely.
And he was very integral in it when he was here with the Pittsburgh Steelers, so hopefully the Steelers defense can shut that down on Sunday.
All right, it's the Broncos coming to Pittsburgh Sunday. Heinz Field is the scene, first of 2 in a row at home before a bye week. That's going to do it, Missy. Always fun. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
For Missy Matthews, I'm Bob Pompiani, and all of us here, thanks for joining us on Pittsburgh CW and all the Steeler digital platforms. Look out for the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin program Saturday night at 11:35 on KDKA and the Steelers YouTube channel. Have a good day, everyone. We'll see you next week.